All right, hey everyone, welcome back to Field Pass Podcast. It's Zach and Braden here, coming at you live from Columbus, Ohio. It's a little bit of a late night show today. We've had a crazy week. Braden's been in finals. I'm getting situated to this new apartment. It's not new to you guys. I've been here, but recently married. It's quite a life adjustment. So, been a crazy week, but we're really happy that we were able to get back to you this week. Just before the start of our Thursday night football game. Um, it was a crazy week. We saw sort of some Linsanity runs and bad teams that were carried by one single variable just completely fall off the face of the map. And I'm sure we'll talk about that and we'll name those teams later. And see some master classes from those of which you wouldn't expect. But with this season, I guess that's sort of become familiar, and that's what it's like in the NFL week in and week out. Um, but enough talk. Let's get to our five highlights of the week. Braden, why don't you start us off with our first one?
The first one was probably the biggest one of the week, obviously. Sunday Night Football.
Yeah,
Cowboys pretty much dismantle Eagles. I mean, it wasn't really close. I believe the score ended up being 30-13, I believe. And I
yep,
mean, they pretty much
33-13.
yeah. They pretty much controlled that whole game. And it came as a shocker to me because after the Eagles dropped that game the week before, I was still on their hype train, and everyone was saying the Cowboys is that. And I will admit I wasn't that high on the Cowboys. I like just because I knew their past. But this year it looks like they're starting to turn around. They're winning a couple big games. I mean, Dak has looked really good. I mean, 24 for 39, 271, two tutties. Big thing, zero interceptions. He's avoiding that. And obviously, CD Lamb is also doing his thing, and the defense is rolling. So, I mean, this NFC East, everyone at the beginning of the season was picking Eagles to win it, and right now the Cowboys are on top of the NFC East. They're both at 10-3, and Cowboys had the latest win. So,
Yeah, this was a really great Cowboys game, and it wasn't something. I didn't expect it to be this close. I had picked the Cowboys to win, but not by a margin that they should be particularly proud of. A win over the Eagles from the Cowboys would be something to be proud of anyway. That would have been enough. But they really did come out and in a dominant fashion, really dismantle the Eagles. I mean, they beat them by 20 points, which is a pretty crazy thing to say when, like you said, Braden, um, in their division, most people would have picked the Eagles to make a run for the Super Bowl for the second time over the course of these 2 years. One of the things that I was particularly happy to see is Dak continuing his MVP caliber season. We had mentioned before, and we had this sort of discussion between two Brock Purdy enjoyers and Brock Purdy truthers as it relates to him actually being a good candidate, not only for the quarterback position for the San Francisco 49ers, but for the MVP of the entire league. Whether or not the title of MVP should be given out to a person like Dak Prescott, who is maybe performing in such a way that may be in spite of some of the weaknesses on their team, as opposed to Brock Purdy, who people have kind of labeled as like a system quarterback. We reject that label, but we were talking about how when push comes to shove, I think you should give it to Dak, and I think that uh, this game really solidifies that, especially since Jalen Hurts was on the rise for MVP. You have two of these candidates going up, and one just can't get it done. I mean, you lose by 20 points. His MVP candidacy takes a hit. Another thing I was really happy to see by the Cowboys is just how much they spread out the ball. Uh, you were really able to get Tony Pollard involved in the air. He had 7 receptions for 37 receiving yards, and CeeDee Lamb, who we have lauded as like potentially like a top three or top. Yeah, at this point, I'd say like he's at least a top three receiver with the way that he's been producing this season. Um, have 6 receptions for 71 yards, but he wasn't even the league. Sorry, he wasn't even the leading receiver within that game. It was Jake Ferguson, the tight end. So it's really interesting to see how Dallas is able to use the weapons um, uh, that maybe are overlooked and create a really productive and efficient offense that has been able to go up against potentially a fraudulent Eagles defense, and an Eagles offense which has been slow to start uh, within a number of games this year. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I don't. Yeah.
go ahead.
I don't know if I don't know if this Eagles defense was ever really lauded to be this amazing thing, especially with some of the injuries that they had really early on in the season.
And
Uh,
they obviously lost a lot of pieces as well.
Absolutely, yeah. That the free agency and just the offseason wasn't kind to that defense, and I think people kind of conflate successful teams with successful defenses. Sometimes, I mean, you gotta have a solid defense to have a shot in this league. But I think, is it possible that some of the allure and like the I guess the success of this team has tainted or has kind of like affected the way that we look about this, like we analyze this team like from an analytical standpoint within the NFL. Like the numbers speak for itself. They are 10-3, and that's great. But in a number of occasions, it looks like they've really struggled to move the ball, and they've allowed people to move the ball on them in a way that a lot of, I guess, you would call Super Bowl caliber teams really haven't been able to. But I don't know. Maybe that's another line of dialogue that we can talk about later.
Yeah.
we were we were kind of the we were the ones who were talking up the Eagles as well. So we will both fall
Yeah,
in
I
that.
was the Cowboys shocked me on this one. I didn't really give them much of a chance, and they definitely proved me wrong. So
Yeah, well, it was a surprise. I mean, the Eagles in the number of recent showings have really not given the Cowboys even a chance. Like they, well, not that hasn't been close or anything, but they've just won repeatedly, seemingly over and over again for a while. And
yeah, other than Gardner Minshew last
yeah,
year, but that the Eagles already had like the 1 seed locked up, so it was pretty much
yeah, it's kind of a write off at that point. I'm sure not for the fan, and I'm sure not for Eagles fans and Cowboys fans just because of the bad blood. But when you're starting Gardner Minshew, I mean, no respect on Gardner Minshew, he's been really good this season, but when you already have that 1 seed locked up, the stakes are relatively low.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, I do agree. It's been dominated by the Eagles, and the Cowboys held their ground. We'll see if they can continue it. Because I mean, it's there's a difference of playing having a good week and then having a good run. So I mean, we've obviously all seen them choke in the past. So I mean, if they got to start winning the games that count, and I mean, this is a great start, but they got like the job's not finished. They can't be just satisfied with this one win, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes for them. Which I think it'll be good for them. I'm just saying they can't like overreact based on this one win.
Yeah, you can't acquiesce. I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs. Like, I think that that is something that we can, I think that that's fair to say. I mean, even if they lose, if they completely lose out, the the New York Times playoff predictor still has them within, just like when you calculate um, the games that other teams in their division in the NFC have. So I think any wins at this point are just going to be good for morale and are going to be able to put some things together that you can use in the postseason. But it there's still you still have a very important season or rest of the season from the Cowboys' perspective.
Yeah.
All right. We wanted to talk, and one of the highlights that we have here for number two is these two Monday night shockers. Um, Two games that really should have been absolutely uh miserable when you looked at them like within the first quarter of I guess the first quarter of the season, but have kind of drew interest as we were getting closer on to the games, and they really were surprising with how solid they were on Monday night, with the Packers losing to the Giants, Tommy DeVito, 24-22. And then the Titans coming out with a win over the Dolphins, 28-27, and two really close thrillers. Brandon, what did you think about these games?
Yeah. I'm gonna focus mostly on the Giants Packers one because that one, what the you could say the Titans was a better one, but the Giants one shocked me more because of the two
Hmm.
wins the Packers just had, the way Jordan Love was playing, and then they play probably some of the worst football they played all season. And Honestly, I didn't think Tommy DeVito was gonna do well, and he has proved to be a serviceable quarterback for him. I mean, he's playing better than Daniel Jones was at the beginning of the season, I feel like. I mean, 17 for 21, 58 and a touchdown. And I don't remember if oh no, Saquon had the other two, but that's all you can ask out of him. I mean, he's an undrafted free agent rookie, and he was balling and he made the plays when he needed to. And I mean, that's all you can ask out of a young quarterback like that. And Jordan Love, he had an interception and he also had a fumble, so two total turnovers. I both believe they were both in the first half, but he wasn't really making. He was 25 for 39, so I mean he had an all right game, but this Packers team just looked flat-footed and looks like they were looking ahead. They were overstepping the Giants and they paid for it. That was more shocking to me than the Tennessee win because I mean Miami had that game won and they just blew it at the end. They Miami played a good game up until the final what was it, 3 minutes or something like that.
Mhm.
The Packers looked bad like the whole game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. The Packers really couldn't put anything together, and I don't know if to quote Jared Allen, the lights were too bright. But with the way that they've kind of been accruing like favorable dialogue over the past couple weeks, especially with the play of Jordan Love, but they weren't able to put it together when it counted, and they still kept it close, but they didn't do it in a convincing way at all. It wasn't a situation where uh, this was definitely not a moral victory by any stretch of the imagination. This is you got beat in a really close and ugly way, and you didn't look good at all doing it. So it's a really weird position for Packers fans to be in. It's kind of you fall right back in the hole. And I think we're gonna have a Packers fan on earlier to share his tale of woe and where he thinks we can go going forward. But if you're gonna talk about the Packers game, I can talk about um, the Titans. Yeah, like you said, the Dolphins played um, a decent game. You had Raheem Mostert for 21 carries, 96 yards, and two TDs. So they were able to move it on the ground. The real thing that I think can be most be attributed to the outcome of the game is the loss of Tyreek Hill. Uh, really kind of in the first half. It was it, what it, the way I should say we had talked about, and I don't want to talk about MVP candidates for so long today, but we had mentioned how Tyreek Hill isn't getting enough odds for MVP, um, especially with the way that the Dolphins offense runs through that single man. Granted, you do have Jalen Waddle, who's also productive, but we really saw how um, the struggles did start to mount with the loss of Tyreek Hill, and with him on the field, the Dolphins are so much more dynamic. And on the other hand, too, his weaknesses start to show. It's something that I think hides some of the inconsistencies that he has. Um, so to lose Tyreek Hill, I think was one of the most impactful losses for this game, and in my opinion, decided it. We also saw on the Titans end of things, Derrick Henry start to become a little bit more involved. He as much as he was involved, he only rushed for 34 yards, but he was able to get two TDs when you're in the red zone and struggling to punch it in, you do have that weapon. Um, additionally, Will Levis didn't play a bad game either. He was 23 for 38, threw for 327 yards and had a decent connection, seven times with DeAndre Hopkins. So it's possible to say that he's growing analytically. Will Levis is isn't the most promising with the way that he's performing. And it's possible that the way that this offense has been designed is also to sort of shield some of the weaknesses that we've seen in his play. But nonetheless, the Titans were able to win it out, and this makes this AFC playoff race a whole lot more interesting because
Yeah.
uh, the with the Dolphins having the one seed, a loss to them or a loss by them really shakes things up and gives other people an opportunity to maybe take the title.
Yeah, the rest of the AFC, especially in the playoff picture, we're very glad because I mean Jacksonville has dropped 2 straight, so they're at 5 losses. Ravens are at 3. I bel or they're either at 3 or they're at 3, yeah. And Dolphins are at 4, and Kansas City has lost dropped 2 straight. So they needed this was the Dolphins because they have the hardest schedule remaining. So you really didn't want to drop this game, and they did. So I think they're still fine in the playoffs, but like they got a very hard schedule, and it's gonna be very hard for them to climb back up to that 1 seed.
Hmm. Yeah, I also think that it's gonna be difficult. I mean, you do have a game where you could potentially put something together and like reassert yourself against the Jets in this upcoming week. But a loss to them right before this gauntlet that they have against the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills uh, would not be fun. It would not be fun to go into that week hurting or morale low. So definitely something that you this week for the Dolphins is incredibly important. When previously it wouldn't appear to be so.
Yeah, I mean, after this game, they're going through. They play two 10-3 teams and Bills, who at that point could very well be 9-6. So I mean, this is gonna be very interesting for like this. We've pretty much said all year. Both playoff pictures are really interesting this year. We got a lot of good teams, and good teams are gonna miss the playoffs. And I'll talk about a team in a second, a little bit later on that I think won't make it now, but that's for later. But I wrote this down because the media has made it such a big deal. And I mean, it was a pretty big deal. Kadarius Toney lining up offsides, costing the Chiefs the game. Um, and it's just another Tony mistake. Everyone was giving him big criticism for their first game against the Lions, where he couldn't catch a cold, and then it obviously led to that one pick six, and then this game he is blatantly offsides. Didn't check up with the ref, and then we got Mahomes whining at the end when he's really been gifted with a lot of calls in his career. Like we've seen it all over social media and everything. The thing is, I think the ref should have said something, but you can't blame that on the ref because they teach you since you're in little league. You walk up to the line of scrimmage, you ask the ref if you're on sides, and this wasn't the only time in the game he did that. There's like multiple snapshots of him and they just didn't call it. Like he is like you just got to use your head and think. If you It's your fault if you're lining up that far outside. You can't blame that on the refs. So like I don't think it's gonna damage his team anyways, but I just think that this is 100% on Kadarius Toney, not like you can't really blame the refs in this instance.
Yeah, you don't like to see a ref decide a game like that, and the frustration is understood. Um, from as a Browns fan, it's kind of therapeutic to see Chiefs get mad about uh calls, not only just because they've been bailed out by the refs a number of times this season, but also in the Browns playoff game where there was a clear helmet-to-helmet contact, which resulted in a fumble outside the back of the end zone. In my opinion, which was completely an awful, terrible no call. Um, it's therapeutic to see some pain, but um, and I'm completely being completely facetious. Uh, it sucks if you're a Chiefs fan. It's not a fun thing to see, especially, and it just adds on to the frustration that you feel um with your receiving core over the course of the season. Other than Rashee Rice, and yeah, that's about it. You haven't seen much improvement by anyone. I have sort of been talking about how Travis Kelce has been showing some regression, at least in the way that he runs. The word that I've kind of used for it is just like kind of lethargic. Like he's not as explosive off a snap. He struggles to get open and really shed contact when he's actually out there running his routes. And I think it's starting to show. I mean, he's getting older, and it's something that we have to consider going forward. Could be a potential hindrance on his capacity to play. He's vocalized, at least closely along his family the potential of him retiring. Uh, I think that he still has a couple of good years in him, but obviously I'm completely ignorant to the way that he feels and the way that his body's working. But that's to say that this wide receiving core and the receiving aspect of this Chiefs offense hasn't been stable over the course of this season. I saw Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco talking about this particular play and the frustration behind it, and they had mentioned how um, uh, if you don't check with the ref, there will be times where if the ref does see you offside, he'll he'll let you know that, hey, you're offside, you're gonna have to take a couple steps back. But that's only on that really is only on plays where you're not like scrunched up, you're scourged up. Um, and the composition at play wasn't so that line of dialogue could be had between the ref, uh, or it's the case that the ref just didn't say anything because that's the way the play was structured. So I think that's why that dialogue didn't happen. But even then, you shouldn't be the way how far offside he was uh, is pretty
That's
ridiculous.
on
Like
him.
the refs were saying they couldn't even see the ball. So in like I think it was like the post game uh, press conference, like there was a point where they couldn't even see the ball because of his body obfuscating it. So that's your fault. That's just kind of the
Yeah,
long and short of it.
I mean, yeah, like if there's a foul, you like a blatant foul, you want the ref to call it than not. Because
Yeah,
we've seen so many. There's a difference if it's controversial and there's a flag thrown, then it's an actual foul and it's not thrown at all. Like that's something you have to call in that moment. I get that it's a clutch play and it ended up being a touchdown. He threw the flag before Kelsey even got the throw. He's not gonna throw the flag just because the Chiefs scored a touchdown.
yeah,
He was like a yard off sides. You gotta call that. And I the Chiefs, like this whole argument that the refs are against us is just so stupid to me because the refs have given them great calls. We can bring up the Super Bowl last year when it was a controversial holding that won them the game. So I mean,
yeah. And that was like, yeah, very controversial. Like
there's a difference in
the
those two
Chiefs have
plays.
benefited from calls recently, and I think, but I like Patrick Mahomes. Like as much as people kind of have a distaste for him, it wasn't a good look by him, especially with the way that he was like yelling at the ref and during the handshake, giving trouble to Josh Allen. Which like really, what are you supposed to say in that moment if you're Josh Allen? You just get like you just kind of have to like stand there and take it and then leave. So it's just made it super
Yeah,
weird.
yeah,
And
he did apologize for that though. So I
yeah,
mean, everyone would act like that. I think he was just in the heat of the moment. So I'm not holding like
you
that.
you you get caught up in the moment, and I don't blame him for like he's a competitor. Like you want to see these guys have a
Yeah.
passion and compete, but also like I think he would have felt, and I think he would have I'm sure he said it himself, like he would like that moment back. Um, so it's whatever. I'm not really gonna put that on him.
No, not at all. Yeah, you can't really.
Yeah. It is one of the coolest plays that it didn't count though.
Yeah, I
That throw by Kelsey,
it was
absolutely ridiculous.
if imagine if it got tipped. I saw him talking on New Heights and he was like halfway through that throw, I was imagining what Andy Reid would say to me if that got tipped. Like he was like he he said it was a spur of the moment, then he realized how risky it was. I mean it was a great play and it's just sad that this call was happened, but like I think at the end of the day we both agree it had to be called.
Yeah, if it's not a valid play, if it's not a play that is within the rules of the game, then it shouldn't stand.
Yeah.
And it was not within it's not like that play realistically wouldn't or shouldn't have happened if we were following the rules.
Yeah.
But good aware, it's like crazy awareness by him because the amount of calculation that has to go through your head, like to
In
make that
such a
throw
sport.
backwards to a guy who's running towards you, or at least in your direction.
Yeah, he had
Uh,
he had one on two in front of him and one on this
yeah,
like he turned and there was a guy right there and he still threw it anyway.
yeah,
He kind of like sidearmed it a little bit.
yeah.
But
So it definitely wasn't lethargic on that play. He sling that thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's enough on them. Let's move to our Jets shock against the Houston Texans, which were flying high, and it was really weird to see CJ Stroud really have an off game. Um, Now, the story that is going to come out of this is that, of course, CJ left with a concussion, which is something that we really hope he's able to come back healthy from. But even with that happening later in the game, 6 points against this Jets defense. And I guess what's the bigger issue is 30 points for this Jets offense. Like, what the heck? When was the last time
Yeah,
that happened?
and they had 0 points at half. It was zero
That's
zero
yeah,
going into halftime.
yeah, 14 points for the Jets in the third, and then 16 in the fourth.
Yeah, Zach Wilson, 27 for 36, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he had a QBR of 45. But I think that was mostly from the first half. But
Yeah, that would draw
he
that down.
was he looked really good that second half. I actually did not watch the first half of this game. I only watched the second half, and I was like,
You probably
I
think
was
Zach Wilson
like,
is like
I
top
was like,
five quarterback at that.
yeah.
Like,
If
who
this
is
is my
this
first
guy?
time watching football, I think he's like the next Tom Patrick Mahomes. Like
Yeah,
he was, he was doing crossbody, throwing across the field, throwing to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson was 9 for 108. I mean, yeah,
jeez.
he. I mean, who ended up scoring these touchdowns? Xavier Gibson, Brees Hall,
Brees
Carter King, and
Hall,
Cobb.
Randall
That's right.
Cobb. Yeah,
But this was like, it was weird to see like the first half to be 0-0, and I think the weather was really bad, so maybe that's another factor. And then just to see them come out in the second half and they were moving the ball, and I'm I'm interested to see what happens here because I mean they're 5-8. They got to go on a run, and they play Dolphins, Commanders, Brown. Or yeah, they're 5-8. They probably got to win out to make the playoffs. They're
the
not going to be
Jets or the Texans.
the Jets. They're 5-8. If they want a shot, they got to win out.
Yeah, you
That's
definitely have to win out.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they got Dolphins, Commanders, Browns, Patriots. Commanders and Patriots are probably wins. Browns and Dolphins. And I'm interested to see how Zach Wilson will play in these big games because obviously they played Dolphins Black Friday and it was Tim Boyle and we all saw that and it was way worse than Zach Wilson. And in his first game back in a half, he dropped 30 points in this offense. So I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is feeding him. Like keep giving it to him and maybe we can see Aaron Rodgers back next week. Maybe.
I'm not buying it. Yeah, so that you need to win 4 games, and keep in mind these are the Jets. They have 5 wins over the
Yeah.
course of this entire time. Like, and you said the Patriots and Commanders. What you is Patriots and Commanders, right? You said what
Yeah,
easy
and
wins
then
or,
Browns and
or
Dolphins.
probable wins.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're beating the Patriots. Like, especially so the overlooked aspect of this Jets defense is the run game. It's not great. And if you still have Zeke in at that point, he's perfectly, in my opinion, he's perfectly able to gut that defense, at least, especially with the way they've been utilizing him in the receiving game. Um, I mean, he made the Patriot. They made the Steelers look bad, and the
Yeah.
Steelers have like a decent, but certainly better against the run. So I don't know. I think that you do have a really hard road ahead, and if Zach, like look, if
If
Zach
he can
Wilson,
keep playing like this, they can
if
make
you
some
play
noise.
if Zach Wilson is able to play like that, like just replicate it like for for 16 more quarters, then
Yeah.
sure.
I'm not
But
I'm not saying that's gonna happen. I'm saying if Zach wasn't gonna play like this, there's a chance. Not a big
sure.
one. Because
I don't he
to
has a
9-8,
chance. Yeah.
even if they could get to let's say they win out. Let's say they do. They could
Here,
still
I'll
not
pull
make the
up
playoffs because
totally, yes.
of how many like teams are would still be ahead of them. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm just interested to see how motivated this team is still. Because I mean, they got a long run ahead of them. But moving on
Okay,
to
yeah.
the
So hold
Oh,
on.
good.
The New York Times playoff predictor, which I was on copiously last season with the Browns because they were down really early, and then I was hoping they would build it back up, and then it never happened. With their winning out, they still have only a 5% chance, but it's a chance. So,
Yeah.
so there it could happen. It could happen.
No.
Sorry, you can let's
Yeah.
go into the next one,
Well, hold on.
which is another playoff race.
I want to talk about the Texans real quick.
Okay,
CJ Stroud, I don't think he's going to play this week. As of Thursday night, he is not out of concussion protocol, which is not a good sign. And Davis Mills has been practicing all week. They play the Titans twice, Browns, Colts. They probably got to win 3 of those games. And if CJ's not playing, I don't see them winning this week. So that means they'll have to win 3 in a row against the Browns, Titans again, or Colts. And I'm not going to lie, I could see them missing the playoffs because of them being hurt. Nico Collins, they're supposed to be new wide receiver one after Tank Dell got hurt. He's not really. I don't know if he's going to play this week. And CJ Stroud obviously is the main reason they're here, and he may not play this week. And they're pieces that put him on this little 1, 2, 3 game win streak in the middle of the season. They're all hurt right now, and they need for them to make the playoffs because they've dropped 2 straight, or yes, 3 straight actually. They've lost 3 straight games. They need to win 3 out of these next 4, and it's going to be very hard for them because they don't have that they don't have a game you can look at right now on their schedule. They're going to win that game. There's a couple they might.
you don't have.
They're not playing a Patriots or Commanders on here.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna make it.
I think you and I have completely different perceptions of the Patriots. I think they're kind of scrappy. Like
No,
I
I
think
think
they
they
have.
are. They just don't win games.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, they don't have an easy game. They have two within in division games against the Titans, and like I think they will split it. I think that they're going to lose this week, just to because I think the Titans are coming off of a pretty great win, and to not have CJ would be pretty awful for this offense. I think you'd be stuck with Davis Mills. So yeah, and then really, I think one of the bigger things as well is this wide receiver room, like you said, has taken a hit. Tank Dell was handpicked by CJ Stroud in the draft. And CJ Stroud was able to advocate for him and say, like, I need this guy in order to make this happen. And he has been incredibly productive with him. And losing him just doesn't it takes an entire dimension away from this Texans offense and this Houston capacity to move the ball down the field. And I think that when you're going against a Titans defense who are certainly competent, and then a Titans offense who you still have Derrick Henry despite him still showing kind of his age, um, and then a DeAndre Hopkins who has kind of been putting up really decent numbers recently. I don't like the Texans going into this. So
No,
if you lose that, it really doesn't get
they
easy.
gotta win 3 straight to get in.
Yeah, yeah.
They do.
And even then, if you win three straight, it's like
Maybe.
there's still a chance where you don't get it. Like,
Cause
like
I'm
that would put you at 10, and that would give you like a real that you're like very likely getting in. But it's still like it's weird. Like it's possible that you don't.
yeah, and like we said with the Jets, if they get to 9-8, they could very easily be 3 or 4 seeds out of the playoffs with how many good teams there are this year. Now a
Yeah.
lot of them play each other, so that's gonna help,
Mhm.
but there's still a lot of teams there, and that kind of moves us. We're talking into another playoff picture. And I'm just gonna go over some facts, and then I'm gonna have you answer this question because I'm obviously gonna be biased. The Bengals, if this scenario happens on Saturday, the Colts beat the Steelers, Lions beat the Broncos, and the Bengals beat Minnesota on Saturday. The Bengals will fall into the 6th seed of the playoffs regardless of what happens. And then they play.
And then the
If
Bengals obviously have to win against the Vikings.
yeah, they play the after the Vikings game, they play Steelers, Chiefs, and Browns. Do you think there is a chance? Do you think they make the playoffs? So that we're gonna say that they for the scenario. Let's say that that scenario happens on Saturday. They're the 6th seed. They're 8-6. Then they play Steelers, Chiefs, Browns, and they probably got to win 2 of those games. Do you think that happens?
It's going to be really hard. Um, I think some of the weaknesses of this team are going to start showing by week 16 when you got to go up against the Steelers. Who knows who's going to be playing quarterback, and they're in free fall. But even if you do win that game, which you have to, like I think that is your, other than the Vikings, is your easiest win going forward. Granted, there are only 4 weeks left, like so that's not a really crazy thing to say. But um, the Chiefs won't be easy, and the Browns will not be easy as well. So if you win 2 of these games, I don't think that there's a shot. Like I don't think 9 gets you guys in because
Of our division record, probably, because
because of
we're
your
0
division,
and 4 in the
because
division
the
right now.
Browns will maybe be in there, and if the Browns are still in there, then they'll have the divisional win on you. They'll have the divisional win on you unless you beat them, which then will be tied, but then we have a better in-season record. So it's like it's going to be really difficult, but there's like a chance. It's I don't like Jake Browning. I mean, you had the AFC Offensive Player of the Week on your team prior to this one that we just had. So, I mean, there is a world where you win out and get in. I mean, that would put you at 11-6, and that is
I
definitely
don't
that's a
think I
definite.
think we win. I here this is what I think we beat Vikings Steelers. I think Vikings have too many quarterback problems. We'll talk about their quarterback situation later when we cover this game, obviously.
Yeah.
Steelers quarterback problems. Mitch Trubisky likes to throw 40-yard bombs 4th and 2. Then you play Chiefs at Arrowhead. We probably drop that game. Probably drop it. So we're sitting at 9-7 in a must-win game. That Cleveland Cincinnati game will probably be a win to get in. And
For you guys.
yeah, and I
I
said
yeah, yeah.
the it may not still be like this, but as of right now, Cleveland civilians are starting for this team, the Browns. As you know, you've been letting me know the whole team's getting injured, and I think you guys will be more injured than we will, so that'll help us. But
Don't
we'll
say
be.
these things.
I
You
th-
like listen,
I already said I'm gonna
I'm
be
not even
biased.
coming from a Browns fan. Just don't say this thing about your team because you're gonna get people injured with with what you're saying.
I'm knocking on wood right now, but
Yeah.
uh, we could. Okay, so and then let's say we both end up 10-7 after that. Week 18, we're both 10-7. We may still not get in. I think we, I think we may have to win out to make this playoffs, just because we would have head-to-head matchup over Bills Colts because we beat them. We'd, but we even though we beat you guys, I think technically with tiebreakers, we'd lose tiebreakers to you and Steelers because we're 2-4 in the division and it is awful. And you guys will obviously you'll have a better record than we will. You'll if you lose to the Bengals, it'll be 3-3. So I'm thinking that the Bengals get to 10-7, but get left out, and that's me as a Bengals fan. Just I off the top of my head, I'm not looking at other teams' schedules. I'm just saying with what I know that we have Jake Browning at quarterback, and we're 0-4 in the division right now, and
Yeah.
is going to play a that's going to play a big role. That's why I said that Thursday night Ravens game was such an important game, and we blew that one, and then we blew the Steelers one as well. So I could, I hope the Bengals make the playoffs. I hope I'm wrong, but as much as I'm loving Jake Browner's season right now, and that I can watch the Bengals still. I I
Yeah.
really don't see it,
That's
and
fun.
it's going to be very hard. I don't know what your Magic playoff predictor is saying, but I really don't know. I think
Do
we
you want the
almost have to
numbers?
win out. I think
You
we
do
almost
have
have to
to.
win.
You basically do have to win out. Well, actually, no, not true. If you win every game but lose to the Browns, you got an 81% chance of making it in, apparently. that because that puts you at 10-7. But I think like the in 10-7 is I think the number that the Browns are aiming for because that's what we're confident in. I think with the wins that we have, especially since we have one on the Ravens and we have one on the Colts. We have one on the Colts, Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals, and they're all in the playoff races. Like
And
they're all in the hunt. So that's at least what we're aiming for. It's gonna be that number is not as fun for you guys. Um, but
yeah,
if it's win against the Browns, you have an 81% chance of making it, which I would be happy with. I would be happy with if I'm a Bengals fan. So it's going to be real important to get that Chiefs win though.
yeah,
Uh,
and
yeah,
this Bengals team can do it. They have plenty of experience and they can do it. It's just like I said last week. Jake Browning has to continue to play. The second he stops, it's game over.
the second the host of the host spirit that possessed Josh Dobbs and now is within the body of Jake Browning moves on, then we
Don't
could be
say
seeing
that.
some trouble.
Don't say
Yeah.
that, dog. Don't say that.
That's it for our highlights today, guys. We're about to move right into our predictions. Let's go.
All right, we're back with our predictions. This week we have a guest with us, Andy. He was on
Yep.
here week 3 or 4, I don't remember, but we just thought you guys have heard me and Zach's voice a lot this season. We thought we'd bring in another voice, get his
Spice it
perspective on
up.
the NFL. Yeah, he'll have a lot to say. Zach mentioned in the headlines when we were talking about the Packers that Andy will have plenty to say about that when we talk about them. But to start off,
Lots.
we just got done talking about them in the headlines. Vikings Bengals. Now, Nick Mullins is in for Josh Dobbs, and Josh Dobbs actually moved to quarterback 3, I
Third string.
believe. Yeah, and Hall, the guy that got the concussion on the first drive of the game in Atlanta, is now second string. And against Jake Browning and the Bengals, who have won 2 in a row, Jake Browning has looked well. This is at home in Cincinnati, and because of the quarterback change and how bad the Vikings offense looked last week, I mean they won the game 3-0. I think the only pick you go here is with Bengals, just because I mean this quarterback room has not looked good lately in Minnesota. Zach, what do you think on it?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think barring a Nick Mullins masterclass, I think that it's not. This isn't going to be a fun game for the Vikings. How do you put up 3 points on the Raiders? I don't. I genuinely don't understand. Okay, so here's the thing. Uh, Justin Jefferson wasn't playing. This was he got
Got
injured.
knocked out.
He got
Got
injured. Yeah,
injured
Yeah.
he
again.
got injured. He took that really bad hit to the ribs. It looks like and according to him, he will play this game coming up. So that's the thing that uh this Cleveland this sorry not Cleveland this Cincinnati defense is going to have to watch out for because he's the best wide receiver in the league. The question is, can you get to him? And I think that in terms of the front seven, the Bengals actually that's their stronger category of their defense, and I think that they're going to be able to get to Nick in a pretty easy way. I've talked about the strength of this O line for the Vikings, and they're not exactly jumping off the page. So, yeah, give me the Bengals in this one. I think it should be a good display of Jake Browning's chops.
Yeah, I completely agree. Rolling Bengals here. Not only do the Vikings have lack of anything at quarterback, um, they're very system. I think it's all pretty fair to agree. Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's a good starting quarterback, but he's a system quarterback. He's not going out there and doing crazy things like someone of Lamar Jackson category, where he's running all over the field. They got to put in different defenses to deal with him. Is he a good quarterback? Yeah, he's system. They don't even have a system quarterback right now. They have no serviceable quarterback. Now, when you look across the field on Sunday, or is this a Saturday game on
Yeah,
It's
Saturday?
it's
Saturday.
Saturday.
It's really weird.
I love that. I think that
Yeah.
they should always have Saturday football once college football is done. It's great for the game. But anyways, you look across, you see an elite quarterback in Joe Burrow. He's out. They move on down the depth chart to Jake Browning, who we didn't really know much out of. I haven't seen him play since he got mollywopped by Bama in the CFP semifinals a couple years ago with Washington. But the thing is about him is he's a very serviceable quarterback. We're seeing this year. There will be teams next year who will be gunning for him in free agency. He will have people trying to get him to play for him. Will he stay in Cincinnati as a backup? I don't know. I think honestly, from the tape that we've seen, he could start on a lower level team. My only concern with that is if it is a lower level team, he might not be doing as well because that system is not in place. This is a Cincinnati team that just 2 years ago was in the Super Bowl. So they've got a good system. They've beefed up the O line. Things are there. Other side, Vikings. Nick Mullins balled out a couple years ago with the 49ers. I don't know if anybody really remembers that. Um, I had to do a double check and say, is that even the same guy? Um, I really just don't see Minnesota getting this one. Um, yeah, that's
It
Bengals all the way.
yeah. The Vikings. I thought they were gonna make. If you would have told me before the Chicago game that Josh Dobbs had this high of a fall, like this far of a fall off, it would have like
Yeah,
you'd have been like, man, how?
yeah.
Like
Well,
he
it's
was.
actually crazy. He was balling out, and it had me a little nervous because I was like, crap, we're gonna have
Divisional
to play
issues.
this team.
Yeah.
Divisional issues.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking over at Chicago a little bit, going like, oh crap, we got to play them again. But the Vikings now, I'm not scared of the Vikings. They have a good defense, they have good receivers, but you got to tie it all together with a serviceable, at minimum, quarterback. If you want to make a playoff push, they don't have that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think we'll see that. Especially Vikings aren't Bengals, sorry, have a pretty good. I mean, there's no like, oh my, like a superstar on our defense. We just have all around like really solid players at each position, and I think,
Yeah, I
You
agree.
you got
th-
Trey Hendrickson.
yeah,
Trey
that's like
Hendrickson is good.
he has
He's
like
good.
12 sacks this year.
Yeah.
He's very underrated.
Yeah.
I'm not
Pro Bowl
saying like
caliber player.
DJ
we
Reader.
don't got like a Miles Garrett or a T.J.
Right.
Watt or yeah.
You don't have a
See,
defensive player of
I'm
the
giving
year
you problems,
candidate.
Zach. So like you guys, Trey Hendrickson
It
isn't.
goes both ways.
Yeah,
It goes both ways.
it's not. He's
Yeah.
not quite on that level, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's having a year. So that's
Yeah.
moving on. But moving on to our next Saturday game, Steelers Colts. We saw Steelers drop a game on last Thursday night in Pittsburgh against Patriots, which I mean, everyone thought that game was going to be like 3-0, and the Patriots had 21 points in the first half, and everyone was like, "What is going on?" They play the Colts, who just lost to Cincinnati, and again, backup quarterbacks again. Both quarterbacks are out for the year. Kenny Pickett may come back. I've seen some rumors on that. I don't think it's going to happen, but another backup quarterback battle, and I think the Colts got the better backup quarterback in this case. Even though Jonathan Taylor is not playing, I think Zach Moss is enough, and I think this game is going to look a lot like the Cincinnati game for the Colts, except they're going to be the ones like just barely edging them out. Because I mean, the Bengals Colts game, even though like the Bengals pretty much had control of the game the whole time, it was still a competitive game. It just the Colts weren't capitalizing on their opportunities, and I can see that happening for the Steelers, where they're not capitalizing on all their opportunities. And since in Indianapolis, I am taking Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I'm also going to put my money on Indiana this week. Um, this Steelers team is in free fall. That's just the simplest way to say it. Um, it's it's kind of at the point where I think they should consider calling up a good friend named Matt Canada to help fix some of their offensive issues. Because I think it was interesting. They had one, all they got out of firing Matt Canada was one Kenny Pickett pass over the middle and one win. And wait, no, they didn't even end up winning that game. They have not.
They beat us. They beat
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
Oh, they did beat that. They did. Sorry. I really wanted to twist the knife, but but nonetheless, it hasn't been very good since then. It's even with Pickett, like in like it's in like with the even with Mitch Trubisky, who I've been seeing them call for Mason Rudolph, who I really don't think would be much better. Like this team just doesn't look
He's
like it
still
can
on that
piece
team.
anything together. Yeah, he is. Oh, and they're making it
He's
very
been
well
there
known.
80 years.
They're chanting for him to go in at the home games where they're being played when they're seeing this Mitch Trubisky uh disaster class happen. So I don't have any faith in Pittsburgh, especially since the Patriots were able to put up the amount of points that they were on. This defense. One thing that I do want to mention is that I don't know what they're doing to TJ Watt. I don't know if they have like if they've like Frankensteined him or something like that, where they just like take off his concussed head and put on a new one, or they're just putting like two visors on, so he's just able to go out and play one. In my opinion, he probably was pretty concussed, and the league seems to think that as well, given that I think they're currently investigating the decision to put him back in the game. Um, Fortunately for the Steelers, TJ Watt is going to be in the game, so that's going to be an added an added risk for Gardner Minshew. But like you said, I think Gardner Minshew is up there with with really one of the best backup QBs in the league right now, despite that pretty ugly loss to the Bengals. And backup QB is the most valuable position over the course of this entire season. And it's a great thing to have. He's a great thing to have. Um, and I just can't imagine what this team, and this is like a complete sidebar, not related to this week at all. Imagine what this team would look like with Anthony Richardson. And that's the end of my time.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are in an interesting predicament here. Like Zach said, they're kind of imploding. They've got their all-time great one of their all-time great quarterbacks in Ben Roethlisberger calling out their toughness over the Pittsburgh air. And you don't want that as a player, as a franchise, and I'm sure Tomlin's not happy about it. He's always seemed to run a pretty tight ship over there in Pittsburgh, and recently it's just there's holes in the boat because the ship is sinking. Um, Now the defense looks good. They've always looked good, but that offense is just too big of a question mark. Um, I don't think Indianapolis completely blows them out of the water, but I think they win here. Um, it's gonna be one of those games. It's like watching a Big Ten West game, I feel like, where it's just you're hoping somebody scores a couple touchdowns, but you know it's nothing's guaranteed. But yeah, I'll go Indianapolis here.
You also have George Pickens talking like he's prime Jerry Rice. Like
Yeah,
I
his
I I don't understand. Like yeah, I don't know what he would look like on another team. I'm not up for that speculation. But dude, like you're not it's not like you're always open. It's not like you're always open. You will have a couple of crazy catches. I'll never forget that catch that he had last season against the Browns. But like where he's like basically that's that. That's the best I can do. But it's like the culture doesn't seem to be there as well. We had mentioned like last week, Najee Harris quote talking about uh Mitch Trubisky's leadership, and he just like apparently just kind of shrugged and he was like, "It's like vocal, I guess." So it's like it just doesn't
Yeah,
seem like a good team to be in right now.
I
yeah.
the Steelers wide receivers. I feel like with Juju, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, all of them individually have had a problem.
Yeah,
It's one of
that is
Something
that's a
in the
good point.
water in that room. They had Antonio Brown, and then he went crazy. So
yeah,
I mean,
CTE, catch that
oof.
energy. So I mean,
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
yeah, I forgot you tweeted that. That's
the
crazy.
Steelers wide receivers have on the field they may be good, but off the field they do some stupid things. So, but I think
Yeah.
that we don't want to give them much attention. But Broncos Lions Saturday night cap. So we got 3 games on Saturday, which Andy mentioned. I also like the Lions. They looked really bad in Chicago, and as a Michigan fan, I'm as a fall. I kind of also follow Detroit Lions people as well, and they were pointing out this the defensive discipline has not been there. There was multiple instances on Sunday where like Aiden Hutchinson, who has played great, he was so focused on trying to get to the quarterback, he leave his assignment like in the contain, and
That
then
was so funny.
Fields would run over. Yeah, but in this Lions team, they played well in New Orleans, but we've seen New Orleans struggle. I I think the Broncos, they're playing right now where they can go into Ford Field and win because it's not like Ford Field is really this hostile environment. I mean, this year it's been
Not
packed out with
Arrowhead,
how good
no.
the Lions have been, but it's not like you're going there, you're worried to win there. But I think this Lions defense just has too many problems right now for me to pick them over. Honestly, this Broncos offense really has been rolling. The Sutton to Wilson connection has been working really well, and I could see it working really well again. Even though, I mean, CJ Gardner is cleared to return to practice, but there's no way he's playing this week. Probably, I don't even know next week. So I think Broncos win.
Yeah, I'm also giving this one to the Broncos. I think something that the Lions really do have to be worried about going forward. I'll never stop talking about this Broncos defense as well. Dude, they're freaky. They freak me out. Like I if I was on the other side of like if I was on the offense of any team playing against them, I think I would just run and cower and hide in the end zone. Like they hit so hard, and it's like the way that they play with a ferocity and a it's not just a swagger. It's like a deliberate aggression. I think it's just like it was kind of like instilled in them after that 70 point loss that the Dolphins hung on them. Like this will never happen again, and we're gonna make it so you're not even you're like you're gonna be so broken down morally that that's not even a possibility. And I I really hope that Jared Goff is able to get rid of the ball quick, because he's like really shown some weakness lately. And I've even seen some like Lions fans talking about how it's possible that like Jared Goff may be the maybe the weak link in this team, at least offensively. I'm not
He has
latching onto
not
that
played
yet.
well.
I'm not latching onto that yet, but it's something to consider, and it's definitely something that you don't want rearing its ugly head against this defense. Um, you got big playmakers like Pat Surtain who's going to make it hard to connect with some of your receivers, and then you got a Gahanna man Jonathan Cooper as well, who's been able to score some defensive points. I'm actually he's not like the biggest playmaker on that team, but uh, by and
He's
large
good.
but by and large this defense is not someone I want to be against. And I think that based on that alone, and like you said, the Cortland Sutton to Russell Wilson connection that has been decapitating teams all over the league. I'm gonna put my money on Denver this week.
Yeah, so I think Detroit, man, they're getting embarrassed right now. They are on fraud watch. Um, I personally have experienced fraud watch. I've seen a couple really good 13-3 Packers teams get dismantled in the playoffs. Um, so that absolutely sucks. But here's the thing about Detroit. They're fighters. They're tough. They're gonna get up. What Dan Campbell say? They're gonna bite some kneecaps off. I think this is the week that we see them do that. They got beat pretty badly to Chicago. They lost to Green Bay. They're losing these division games. They're kind of digging their heels in right now. And I think if they don't win this one, then a lot of people are going to start calling it quits on the whole Lions organization again, which would really suck because they had maybe one good half season. If this season turns out bad, I'm gonna go against the Tide. I'm gonna pick Detroit here. I think they need this one. I think they're gonna figure out a way to get this one. I completely agree with everything you guys have said. The Broncos are a very good team. You know, between them and the Packers, those are two teams who looked very, very bad. The Packers looked very, very bad this last week on Monday Night Football. We'll get to that later. But the Broncos looked terrible to start the season, and they've turned it around. and they could possibly win their division. Um, but I got the Lions. They need this one. They know they need this one. They're playing for their coach here. I'm going Detroit.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I think with the added impact of them being home, I think that also contributes to that.
Yeah,
Like the environment's going to help them really instill this this comeback kid attitude on it. Even though they were flying high at the start, it's if
yeah.
there is a time to try the ship, it's now.
yeah, I mean, they have a good lead on the NFC North right now, and they just need to
Mhm.
win a couple more games to clinch that up. But it's gonna be Broncos is no easy task, since Zach mentioned that defense can be very very brutal. So we'll see that. But moving on, our 1 o'clock slate for Sunday, starting off with Giants Saints. Now, I the Saints have been so inconsistent all year. Yeah, that they they look like they had that 1 week, I think it was in Indianapolis, where they just went off offensively. Derek Carr threw for 1,000,000 yards and everything. And then they have like weeks where they like shit the bed. And then last week we had linemen yelling at Derek Carr, and I mean they still got the job done. It's blanket who they played, blank in my mind who they played. Oh, it's the
I
Panthers.
believe it
I
was the
mean, yeah, Panthers.
Panthers.
So I mean, it wasn't that good, but I believe in Tommy DeVito, baby. Yeah, the Italian is getting it done in New Orleans. The Giants win this game. I'm a believer in Tommy DeVito, and he's taking them to the Super Bowl, baby. Not really, but you know what
Yeah,
I'm
I don't
saying.
know. Maybe you need to bring this agent around. He put up
Yeah,
a
He's the reason
that
they won on Monday. He's the sole reason.
kissing in the stands. You know,
dude, that Fedora has magical powers. That was all he
must
needed to
be
become a a Super Bowl quarterback. Like I I'm obviously being facetious, but like I agree, Braden. Like, which it's impossible to get a read on this New Orleans team, but they have been more disappointing than they have been uh consistent, in my opinion. Like I feel more let down than them by them. Let's just put it this way. On a scale of volatility, they're very high, but on a scale of like whether or not that volatility is good, I'm more in the disappoint. I've been more disappointed by this team. Um,
yeah.
Chris Olave is a great player, but he hasn't been able to be as productive as it seems like he was last season. And I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if it's a Derek Carr issue. I don't know if it's a play calling issue. Who knows? What I do know is that there's a couple weird things that the Saints just can't get rid of. And that is the way that they utilize Derek Carr and Taysom Hill kind of in conjunction. Um, it seems like when Taysom Hill is really on a roll, he's taking these direct snaps and he's even putting some throwing work in. Like when he's on this roll, they just take him out of the game and they kind of kill all the momentum that they have. I don't understand the reason behind that, and I would love for that question to be asked, and for there to get some sort of honest answer. And maybe that won't come until this everyone on this team is like completely gone, and we get like some like documentary about it or something. But that's all to say. This team has been disappointing. I actually agree with Braden. I think I'm going to put this. Uh, I think the Giants are going to win this game. The defense has slightly been and I guess quietly, really been putting it together recently, um, especially with some of the defensive tackle work on the Giants. We've seen some improvements, and then also Saquon has been showing some flashes as well in a way that he was kind of struggling to replicate during the start of the season, and also definitely through the mid range as well. So as we start to get into the later throws, I think they're going to put it together. And like, is it weird that I feel weirdly more optimistic than Derek? For like I know I would obviously have Derek Carr over Tommy DeVito in terms of skill, but I like feel more optimistic about him. Like I have this weird sense of attachment and belief in the kid. So give me the Giants in this game at
Yeah,
New Orleans.
Yeah,
at New
it's
Orleans, give me Tommy freaking DeVito.
Yeah,
That guy, I mean, he put on a show on Monday
yeah,
night. I didn't expect it. I did
yeah,
no
not
one
think that
did.
if one player was going to beat us, it'd be flipping DeVito. All right. He
yeah.
did it. He did it through the air. He looked good. He looked poised. Um,
And he
and
did. He is a
so,
turned the ball over.
He hasn't turned the ball over. Exactly. Um, do I think he's Peyton Manning? No, by no means. But he looks serviceable. It's a huge thing in the NFL for a backup. To be honest with you, he's had more spark this year than Daniel Jones did at the
Yeah,
start. And to remind you, this is a New York Giants team who made it to the divisional round of the playoffs last year. So they're not exactly just some scrub team that's always sucked. They've had recent playoff success, and I think they need to build on that. The issue, their franchise quarterback, for now, franchise, is out. Tommy DeVito steps in. He's been looking like a baller. The Saints, eh, somebody has to win the AFC South or NFC South, I'm sorry. It is what it is. They're okay. Derek Carr, um, he's okay. He's kind of like Kirk in my eyes, where he's a good quarterback, but it's not somebody that you're like. It's not like a Rodgers or a Brady or a Manning or even like a prime Russell Wilson where you're like, we have to look out for this guy. It's like, yeah, he's their quarterback. Um, so I think the Giants are rolling. They've won a lot recently. I'm taking. I like the Giants in this one over New Orleans.
Yeah, you gotta think. There's also a culture aspect to it. Like it seems like it, it seems like the personhood of Tommy DeVito i- is kind of is like he's just like a well-liked person as well. And
Yeah,
like you have Saquon Barkley talking about like how it's funny to like have like a cult like it's like this cultural fixation on what he brings to the table, but he's also just like a
yeah.
genuinely really nice guy. And if like the expectations are low for this Giants team and they can really only go up like with what they're sitting at, it's like they don't really have much at stake. Like the playoff aspirations are still kind of out of the picture, although I'm sure Giants fans are like looking forward into the future. But yeah, it just the vibe-o-meter is reading all Giants, so let's go Giants.
yeah. I mean, uh, the Vikings aren't making the playoffs, by the way. That it's not gonna happen. But I mean, who knows? Maybe Brian Dable's looking a lot happier on the sidelines with Tommy DeVito than he was with Daniel Jones. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But moving on, Bears Browns. Bears, we talked about them. They looked pretty good against Detroit, and I mentioned when we were talking about the Bengals how the Browns have everyone injured. So Zach, you're not gonna like this, but just because I don't know who's playing for the Browns because everyone's getting hurt. Um, the whole team's at this rate, the whole team's gonna have pneumonia, uh, net tomorrow. So the game's gonna get forfeited. But I'm going with Bears because I don't know who's playing.
I know who's playing, and that's Elite Joe Flacco, and he's going to take the Browns to victory. I believe in Joe. I believe in the Browns. They faced adversity all season long. They've still had a consistently good defense. I saw on Instagram today, it looks like they have 6 or 7 defensive starters. A majority of their defense has been out for a majority of the season. They've rallied together. They have a veteran quarterback. And I think that the Bears have had recent success, but you can never count on the Bears for anything. I take the Cleveland Browns in this one. I think Joe Flacco gets it done today.
I'm not a
To
believer.
to to make it clear what I have been through these past couple of weeks. I don't know if I could just do I don't know if I could subject the listeners to it. It's just worlds of pain and hurt and misery. Every single day, barring this day to day, I have woken up to a season-ending injury, or like at 1 p.m. I've gone to the bathroom and checked my phone, and someone has died, and it's like it's miserable. We saw Okoronkwo go down, which is something that I didn't even know was like even potentially like what there. We saw Mo Hurst go down for the
Michigan
season. Now
man.
Okoronkwo, it has a potential like it looks like he's not coming back. They're not like fully ruling him out, but he's on IR. Grant Delpit. Oh, and did I even get to him yet? I don't even know because there are a billion of them. Mo Hurst, Grant Delpit, the day after he signs a 3-year contract, I believe, IR. If we make a postseason push, he could potentially come back. Oh, and also we lost DeJuan Jones, who's looking like the biggest steal of like one of the biggest steals of the draft, who was a stellar offensive lineman. Now we got to deal with someone, James Hudson, who does a false start on every single play. And then also, oh, did I also put on? We lost our quarterback and our the best running back in the entire league. Oh, and also Denzel Ward is hurt, which actually now I'm going to stop with all the injuries because it looks like he could come back. And that is one of the biggest additions that this Browns defense could possibly have is the return of Denzel Ward because we've been able to adapt. We've been able to get some movement and some better coverage in that safety position. And Schwartz has been able to make the adjustments that have been necessary. We saw people like Martin Emerson. He had 2 picks against Lawrence last week. Newsome also had an interception, which was something I was yearning for in that Broncos game, but he just was completely getting blown out of the water. So adaptability has been a strong suit of the Browns so far, and that goes to Kevin Stefanski's credit. That goes to Jim Schwartz's credit. That goes to Alex Van Pelt's credit, our offensive coordinator. Everyone except for the training staff with the Browns franchise is doing a great job at adapting. And like you said, Andy, who would have thought that the person to save the Browns franchise in their most dire moment would be a Ravens quarterback?
Yeah.
And to speak on Joe Flacco, I genuinely believe in him. Like I think he's bought in. I think he's perfect for Kevin Stefanski because Kevin
He's a
Stefanski,
proven winner.
yeah, he is a proven winner. That's truth. And we don't have very many of those in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski loves play action. He loves it. And he more so believes in play action to set up the run than he does anything else. And Joe Flacco is perfect for that. I think they threw it like 39 times with him or something crazy like that. And I genuinely believe that he wants to be here. I genuinely believe that he has a knowledge and like a veteran status that he can bring to the table. And I want him here as long as he wants to be here. At least for like the throws of the season, I will be praying for him every night before my head touches the pillow that offensive line keeps him safe. And I haven't even gotten to my pick yet. With that being said, this Bears defense has locked in pretty recently, especially with that Montez Sweat trade. But I think they're kind of overblowing it. I think that despite this kind of incompetent Browns offense, we have seen some improvements recently. And I think that the Browns will win this game. I think that even with the defense that has been completely like eviscerated by injuries and just pain upon pain, we still have some guys in there who can really put stuff together. And if Denzel Ward comes back, like that is going to be a massive bolster to this defense, and it's going to bring something to this defense that we haven't seen in the past couple of weeks. Yeah, just give me the Browns. Like I believe in this team. We're at home. We play incredible at home as well. This defense. It's the disparity is a much different from when we're on the road from when we're at home. And that's good for us this week because this Bears offense is hot. Like you said, they put up a lot of points on Detroit, and they did so in a very fashionable way. So I'm very glad that we're playing on home turf for this game. But I'm going to take the Browns.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be close. Anyways, I'm acting like this Bears thing's a sure win, but in reality, it's not. But I just think the Bears are hot right now, and I think they'll get it done. But the reason we brought Andy on is for this next game, and for
we got one more.
We
got the Falcons and the Panthers.
It's Falcons Panthers. Yeah, we got
Falcons Panthers.
I'm skipping
Let's talk about this one. The Snooze Bowl. I got the Falcons. The Panthers suck. The Falcons aren't good, but the Panthers are awful. Give me Atlanta.
Well, yeah, I was texting them both today. Tickets are 45 cents on StubHub. So we're
going.
That's all we need. We're going to Carolina for this game. We're making the trip. But yeah, the Panthers suck. Falcons suck as well, but they don't suck as bad. So I'm going with Falcons. Like it just is what it is.
I think if we went to this Panthers game, we would be like the star guests. Does
Yeah.
anybody want to be in care? Like we found 3 guys from Ohio who like who want to
Yeah.
come watch
Yeah.
us. They like
We're
walk us
dancing
out.
with Sir Purr down there,
Yeah,
Yeah,
we bought tickets with a quarter and 2 times.
yeah. It's like
we paid in change and hard
Yeah.
cold cash for these tickets
our flights
to
down
get
here were
in.
like 200% more than,
Yeah.
than the cost of
More
the
than
ticket.
that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So yeah, that's yeah, I completely agree with you guys. It's the Falcons, okay, as much as they are weird, they're not bad. Like I don't think that they suck.
They're
Eh,
mid.
They're
they
definitely
just
mid
suck a
is a good
little.
word. Yeah, they definitely but Kyle Pitts did get a touchdown last week. I think that people are
Ooh,
overlooking
Is
that.
that his first one?
first
Yeah,
time in a long time.
it's he had a
His
touchdown in
fourth.
London, and then I think that was his most recent one.
Oh,
So
jeez.
that's that. And again, that he's gonna
Arthur Smith
Arthur
just
is gonna
likes
go right
drafting
back
skilled
to.
players to have them on the sideline.
He likes looking at them. He just likes like you're really good. Let's just do nothing about that. Um, but yeah, I'll take the Falcons. No one wants to be in Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now that we've covered that quick game, I'm gonna give Andy the floor for most of this one. It's his team, the Packers. They play Tampa in Lambeau. So Andy,
Important game.
what's your thoughts on this?
All right, so I think there's a couple things. I was watching the Packers game on Monday night, and I genuinely felt bad for Matt LaFleur because I had the same expressions and reactions on my face that he did while we were watching the Packers play. It was a look of utter confusion, shock, embarrassment, and just what on earth is going on inside his head. I was just completely baffled, not only in how poorly run our offense was. I'll say in the first half, it didn't look great in the second half. It was okay. I'm not entirely blaming this on Jordan Love. Part of my gripe is with Matt LaFleur. He seems to think that the Jaden Reed jet sweep is the end all be all to plays, meaning we have ran it too many damn times, Matt. They figured it out. Cut that play out, maybe run it once a game. Second
Maybe
point of
once every other
emphasis.
game, not twice a drive.
Yeah. Joe Barry, how do you have a job? You and Brian Ferentz should team up together and create the worst football team ever because you get run up by 100 and wouldn't be able to score a touchdown. That's exactly what would happen. We have so many good defensive players, yet our scheme is just utterly awful. Instead of trying to stop them from gaining first downs, yards, typical things a defense does. We have to let them get into the red zone, and then we really start playing defense, and that just doesn't help our offense, our team, our morale at all, because eventually they start scoring points. And you know who was scoring points on us? Tommy freaking DeVito. And I had to look at him, a smug Italian agent, on the sideline while they were kicking our ass and they sent the boys packing back to Green Bay. It's an embarrassment. It should never happen. Never. Not on the national stage like that. Third point, to all the Packers players who are hurt, we need to discover that there is a considerable difference between being hurt and being injured. If you are injured, don't play. If you are hurt, try with some of your money, the millions of dollars you have, put on your helmet, play. Please, we need you. I don't know if you guys have realized, we're trying to make a playoff push here. We are in a position. We should be winning these games, yet we are not. And this is my last important point before I get to the takes of this game. We needed this. They needed to get punched in the mouth because they thought on the bee's knees, we beat the Chiefs when we beat the Lions. Guess what, pal? Both those teams are on fraud watch, and so are we right now because we just got our ass kicked by New York. They beat us on a last second field goal. That's probably one of the worst ways to lose in football.
Yeah.
And they did it. All right. We're back home. We can taste the blood in our mouth because we just got sucker punched. All right. Start swinging back, Packers. I believe in you. I think we can win out. I truly do. Jordan Love, he's got a lot to work on, but I've seen enough that I'm convinced that we need to roll with him in the future. We haven't fully seen Matt's system yet. And I think I was given this point, I was talking to my dad about it. Rodgers is one of those players who's kind of like LeBron. You can't really coach him. You have to administer the other players while he does what needs to be done on the field and on the court. I think now that Rodgers is gone, we're truly seeing Matt LaFleur's system. The issue is our players have yet to live up to the standards of said system. Why? Because they're like 4 years older than me. So I don't really expect it much. They're the youngest team in the league, but they've had amazing upside. I think Love looked good. I think our young receivers have looked good. I really think our defense, other than the scheme of everything, has looked good. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, solid team. Seen Baker Mayfield play. I've seen him make some really good plays this season. They started out relatively hot, if I'm not mistaken. I think they won their first 3 games. But I don't see I think it's the same kind of with the Packers as it was with the Lions. Like I said earlier, we're kind of digging our heels in. We're on our home turf. This is a Lambeau game. Last time the Bucks were here, they had a guy named Tom Brady. Baker Mayfield is about, I don't know, 1,000 levels worse than Tom Brady at quarterback. So we should have no issue with that. However, we have Jordan Love, who's about 100 levels worse than Aaron Rodgers. Can he grow? Yes, he needs to. This is one of those games that's against another team in a very similar spot. They have a decent record. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win out. I don't think they're going to beat us. Now, could they? Certainly. If we played like we played against the New York Giants, I think that we could go down the street, get the Little Tykes 5th and 6th grade football team, and that they would kick our ass because apparently we can't hit the plays. We have to cut out the dumb stuff. All right. We just cut it away and play football. Make the tackle. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do any dumb celebrations. We need to win this game because we're at a point now where we either make the playoffs and look up to our potential and we look very solid. I think that that could happen. Or we don't make the playoff and there's multiple questions. Either way, it's a win-win for me because we get into the playoffs, a good, happy little Packers team. I like to call them the baby Packers. These are the Packers I grew up watching where I know, oh yeah, they're winning. They're not. It's not like that anymore. It's weird. I don't like it. We want to get back to that. The baby Packers can win this game. I trust in them. I believe in them. I believe in Jordan Love. I believe in Matt LaFleur and his system. I do not believe in Joe Barry at all. He needs to go. That's why I say it's a win-win. We do well. We get into the playoffs. We give our guys a boost, a good little playoff experience. We could lose out, get a decent draft pick. Bye, Joe. See ya. He's gone. Win-win for us. I got the Packers.
Yeah, I have the Packers as well. I'm fully on board with I like the narrative. I like the idea that they got punched in the mouth, and this is the time to right the ship. Because you have a really easy schedule going forward, but a loss would really, it would really
Derail
make that
everything.
essentially all for
Yeah.
naught. Like you got Buccaneers, Panthers, Vikings, and Bears, and all of those are very winnable. Like I said, I think your Rugrats Packers are really going to be able to take care of this at home. One notable lacking for this game is that of it looks like AJ Dillon has a broken thumb.
I
Uh,
saw that.
so that's important going forward. He's been your lead HB with Aaron Jones being out recently. So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah,
how the offense changes.
He's got
Um,
every injury known to man this season.
yeah.
yeah. It's been tough. Um, I won't say as bad as the Browns, but we're in a similar ballpark where we've had a lot of key players that are hurt.
Mhm.
AJ Dillon's a tough guy though. Uh, to be honest, what's his name? I know his number's 27 on the Packers. I almost threw something across the room because I saw this man catch a ball and then make a move from the inside to get tackled in the field of play when he could have easily gained another yard and stepped out of bounds in a situation where we needed to stop the clock as quick as possible. If this is what
Yeah,
we have
Patrick
going on
Taylor.
at running back, yes, Patrick Taylor. I don't know who's behind him because we signed him up from the practice squad. Guys, we cannot be going to Green Bay's local high school trying to find players to play running back for us. It just can't happen. All right. Call up Eddie Lacy or something and figure this out
My
because
600-pound life off the couch.
because as of right now, it's not good.
Yeah, but I also got the Packers. I mean, this NFC South is tragic. I don't think you guys really have a problem with it. You
Mm.
shouldn't, but I also thought the same last week, and you've made it abundantly clear they shit the bed. So
Yeah.
I mean, the Packers they really should win out and make this playoffs. We were talking about it last week. There's a lot of upside there. They're very young. They got potential, but I mean, yeah, I think we pretty much agree with everything you said. I said that they were looking ahead a little bit. They weren't taking the Giants completely
I agree.
seriously. Kind of like a look ahead game. I don't know why you look ahead to the Buccaneers, so just focus week on week. But yeah, I don't think this will be necessarily a blowout, but I think there's it'll kind of be like the Lions one where you guys are just in control by like a 10-point lead almost all game, and it
Right.
seems close, but it's not
Yeah.
really. I think that's what it'll
Touch
type of be.
touchdown type of touchdown win type of game. I think a huge key factor though is getting pressure on Baker. We had no sacks against Tommy DeVito, and
And the Seahawks
w-
had
w-
9 sacks on them earlier this
yeah,
year.
we saw what Tommy DeVito can do when you don't get pressure on him. I've seen Baker Mayfield play my whole life. I can tell you right now, Baker Mayfield is a better football player than Tommy DeVito. We cannot allow that to repeat itself. We have very good defensive linemen. We just need to get the pressure home.
Yeah, I
Yeah, you
think
guys should win this.
yeah, it
I hope
it's
so.
yeah, it should be a win. But moving on to I'd say an interesting game in Jets offense just because of how Zach Wilson looked last week. I think he won't look as good, but he won't look bad. He'll be serviceable, but I don't see. We saw it a little bit on Black Friday. I don't see this Jets defense stopping Miami enough for to give Zach Wilson a chance to score. Because I mean, this Miami offense is probably one of the highest scoring offenses in the league with Tua, Tyreek Hill, Waddle. They got playmakers everywhere, and I just don't see this Jets defense being able to stop enough to give Zach Wilson enough opportunities. Because I don't see him scoring 30 points and a half again. I just don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead, Andy.
it I got the Dolphins in this one. I think Tua and Tyreek have looked good. Listen, Jets, I'm sorry. I feel bad for you. I will root for Rodgers next year. Um, I was planning on rooting for him this year, but it just unfortunately he got injured. Um, and it sucks having to play Zach Wilson. The Jets do not have a bad defense by any means, but you look at the Dolphins, who if I remember correctly on here, I predicted the Dolphins will win the AFC East. I think my prediction's looking pretty solid. Buffalo's back in the mix after having some struggles, but I think, we see this offense hang 70 on someone. Um, I don't see them losing to New York. They have a solid enough defense. Zach Wilson is not what I'd call a serviceable quarterback. Um, so yeah, I'm rolling Miami here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna cash my chips on Miami. I think that, or not cash my chips. I'm gonna put my money on Miami. Um, I think that it- it's going to be an interesting game. I actually don't think it's going to be like a 70-point blowout or anything like that. Um, this Vic Fangio defense hasn't really lived up to what we thought it was going to look like. It, it's not been. It's the potential is still out there, and we haven't seen it realized fully. And I don't think that this will be the game where we see a fully dominant defensive showing by the Dolphins. Additionally, on the offense, hopefully Tyreek stays healthy. Um, just because he is the lifeblood of that thing. And like I said, I think that's where Tua becomes a whole lot more mistake prone, and the cracks do start to show when he's absent. There are also other injury issues going forward with other players in that of Devon Achane. Um, he has a toe injury and he didn't practice today. And then also they had a season-ending injury for their center, Connor Williams, which is something that they're going to have to adapt around. Losing a person as important as your center can really throw off your offense. I know from firsthand when we lost we the Browns lost their center last season, and then we had Froholt in, and the number of dropped snaps that we had skyrocketed after that. And it's like that's not a huge deal, but it's a considerable knock on a high flying offense. And any crack in the armor that the Jets defense with Quinn Williams can exploit certainly will. So I think that they're going to get to Tua a number of times during this game, and I think it'll be a little bit closer than we may expect. But I do think that the Dolphins will win this one out.
Yeah, I think most of America is going to pick the Dolphins here. I mean, we've seen this is the second year where this team's carried by this defense. And I mean, a defense does win you championships, but to for that to happen, you have to have a competent offense. And we've talked about the Saints and their inconsistencies. New York's been just as bad, if not worse. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't see it changing. But I mean, moving on to this game, I think 100% of America, except for Patriots fans, Chiefs Patriots. I mean, do we really? This isn't a Brady Mahomes showdown. This is a Mahomes versus Bailey Zappi showdown, which is not going to be good at all. The Chiefs are probably going to hang 100 on them, not realistically, but you know what I mean. This game isn't really going to be close. Patriots may play close for a little bit. Zach mentioned that they're scrappy, but there's no way they win this game. I see the Chiefs winning this all the way.
Yeah, I actually am I low on the Chiefs because I think that this defense is actually going to give them a lot of issues.
Not
Um,
at all.
yeah, this team, this isn't this isn't your
It's not the
like
Super
do
Bowl
I th
champions.
yeah, like it looks different. The struggles are there, and I think I don't. It's certainly not on Patrick Mahomes. It falls down to the wide receiver room being like complete dog shit. Like like genuinely, who
Yeah,
can catch the ball? And the Travis Kelce point that I brought up earlier is tired. Like I don't think he's playing his best football, and I think that it's really going to be hard to move the ball in this Patriots defense. I genuinely think that this will be a pretty low scoring game. Um, and I think that I genuinely think that if Zeke is starting, he's going to be able to move the ball, and like you're going to be in a couple positions where field goals are going to be most of the points that the Patriots like. That's probably going to compose the majority of the points that they have for a while, and then maybe one will slip. Um, Ultimately, I do think the Chiefs do win this game, but this isn't gonna be a fun game for anyone involved. I think both people are both. I think the Chiefs are gonna end up leaving this game upset because they aren't able to prove the haters wrong. They're not able to fix any of their problems. They're not able to get it done against the team that is competing for Caleb Williams. And the Patriots are going to leave this team happy, or sorry, are going to leave this game happy because that just improves their draft stock. So really, the only winners in this game will be the Patriots, in my opinion, despite them actually losing the game.
Yeah. So I got Kansas City here. I think they're kind of in a similar place as Detroit, honestly, where they've been exposed, quite honestly, and especially they've been exposed home, to the Bills, and they
I
beat
mean, but
themselves,
that
quite
was a
honestly.
one possession close game. You can't really say
That was a
exposed.
one possession close game, but the Bills are also a 500 team at that point. Chiefs are someone who they just won the Super Bowl. Um, so give credit to the Bills. Obviously, they won the game, but I do think that the Chiefs, if they win, I think it's like Zach said. I think it's gonna be close, closer than they would like. But honestly, I just don't see Zappy out quarterbacking Mahomes. So overall Chiefs here.
I mean, I think you guys are overreacting a little bit to this past week for the Chiefs, but I mean, I don't think they're the same team, but I mean, it's it's pretty close, and I just I think there's at the end of the day they're still gonna make a run. Mahomes may have to play in a way playoff game though, which other than the Super Bowl he has not, which would be very interesting. But they're gonna make the playoffs. Let's be real. They may, but I mean the interesting thing is that the Broncos may end up winning the AFC West, and they may have to play an away game week 1, which would be that means they probably won't play a home game at all, which would be very interesting. But I don't. There's no way they fall this week. I get what you guys are saying. The Patriots are scrappy, but I don't see a world where the Patriots win this game.
Well, that's what we're saying. I just don't think they're gonna look good at all.
Yeah,
I
I think I don't think they're gonna they're not gonna do what the Chargers did a couple weeks ago and win 6-0.
No,
Yeah.
but the no questions are going to be answered. There is no try. I just don't think that by the end of this game, the Chiefs aren't going to exit this triumphant victors. They're just going to continue to this. The story is going to be the same. Like there's this isn't a shit. In some at some point, if you want this team to take a leap and make a deep playoff run, there has to be a shift, and this isn't the game. Like this is, in my opinion, this game is only going to solidify the picture that everybody already has of the Kansas City Chiefs right now.
But
Yeah.
go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just saying I agree. I
Right.
I don't think this is a Super Bowl team anymore. Um, was Mahomes a Super Bowl quarterback? Yeah. I wish he got a different helmet and a different haircut. Yeah. I don't love looking at it, but still a great player.
Moving on to Texas Titans, which I think is
This will be a fun one. This will be a
yeah,
fun one.
because I don't think CJ Stroud's gonna play. I mentioned this earlier. He's
He
still
shouldn't. I don't want him to.
as of Thursday night, he is still in concussion protocol, and I don't believe he will clear in enough time. That means Davis Mills will be starting on the road, and Tennessee's up high right now, and Nico Collins also in question as he got hurt as well. So that means that if let's say Nico Collins and CJ are out, that means they'll be down at quarterback and their two best receivers. I don't. If that's the case, I don't see them winning in Tennessee. Tennessee plays a lot better at home than they do on the road,
Hmm.
anyways. So I would say Tennessee wins this game if because if CJ plays with him not practicing all week, he won't be as good, and that means he'll. I doubt there's like a 1% chance in my mind that he clears concussion protocol. So I have the Titans winning this one because we've seen Davis Mills before, and he doesn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard to clear concussion protocol within 1 week. I know Amari Cooper did it, which was very surprising, and was incredibly important, in the game that he played. And I'm glad that he was able to do so, and it could be because it seems like the league is treating concussions more seriously, especially after the horrifying Tua concussions that we saw last season. So if it's the case where he hasn't been removed from it by this point, I think it would be safe to keep him out. But I don't think that'll be good for this Houston team. I think it's actually going to be quite bad. You're meeting the Titans in a really bad time. Derrick Henry is back, trending upward. CJ Stroud is going to be missing from this game in all likelihood, and you're going to have to rely back on Davis Mills, who won't have any weapons. Like you won't have any weapons, because you're missing Tank Dell, you're missing Nico Collins. The best person you have could be Robert Woods, and he's old. Like that's really the only way you can put it. And you're going up against, and the Titans are going up against a defense that who led up 30 points against Zach Wilson. So with these divisional games are going to be rough. I think it's just going to be even more rough for the Texans, and I think the Titans could win by like 14 points.
Yeah. Um, so I actually forgot Stroud is out. But I have Tennessee here. I think Will Levis has looked freaking amazing, which I didn't predict when I started the season. Um, yeah, I got the Titans at home. They do really well at home, and like Braden said, they've been putting it together recently. They got the best of the Dolphins. Um, so yeah, I like Will Levis and the Titans here.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up. The way that they play at home and then when the compared to the way that they play on the road is completely different, and
Yeah,
that's a whole nother factor. So I definitely think that this is one that they pick up.
And this Texans, they fell down fast. If they lose this game, will be their fourth loss in a row. And me and Zach are paying early. It's going to be hard for them to make it back into the playoff picture if they drop this one. So in a must-win game, they're down probably their key players, which does suck. But
yeah.
moving on to 49ers Cardinals, I think this one is it. The 49ers are going to win
Catch
this
the
game.
highlights. See how many points the Niners scored. I don't really have much to say.
Yeah.
I got the Niners. I think
Yes.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah, like the Niners they're they're playing like the best team in the league right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say it. So I
I
think
got them in Baltimore in the Super Bowl personally.
yeah, that's a topic for later,
Another
but
episode for
yeah,
another time.
but this I think it's a unanimous I think if you're picking the Cardinals to win this game, you're a Cardinals fan.
Whoa, 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 whoa! I'm joking. Yeah,
I'm
yeah. No,
you think they're gonna I'm pretty sure this is in San Francisco.
no. It's in
No, it's
Oh,
Arizona.
in
it's in
it's in
Arizona. Okay.
Arizona.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
regardless, that the field changes. Oh, yeah, it doesn't the 49ers fans are probably going to be they're probably going to be more 49ers fans than Cardinals fans. So,
I would.
yeah.
They might have tickets on sale for 45 cents there
No,
also.
listen to
Not
this.
this game cuz
Tickets are
49ers
going for $160 at the
just cuz it's the
minimum.
Whoa.
49ers. It's just cuz
Yeah,
it's the
the
49ers. It's not
49ers.
gonna
Dude,
be like
imagine the other team driving up those prices that much.
yeah.
Like,
Crazy.
oh, dude,
But
that's miserable.
I think we can move that one. That's a
Yeah,
unanimous
the
49ers.
next one is a little bit in that way. Not
Yeah.
as much, but
Commanders Rams. I mean,
yeah.
the Commanders me and Zach have said throughout this season that the Commanders find a way to be average.
Bad. Yeah.
This year
The
they're
mid.
below average, which
Yeah.
and I think it's not looking good. Sam Howell, I mean, he's looked alright. He hasn't won a ball games, and the Rams have been rolling lately. I think they're on I don't know what the record is. I know they've won a couple in a row. Because
They
who
look
did they
good.
play last week? It's
They
all.
look good.
They played the Ravens and they lost in a
Oh yeah,
just a
they lost in
heartbreaking way.
overtime to the punt
Yeah,
return.
they
Yeah,
lost in a
and
tough one.
it was heartbreaking for me personally as well. Um,
Yeah,
with them ahead of us in the playoff seeding. Uh, I've been saying you can roll back the tapes. I've been saying this Rams team is good since the jump. Like and they're good. This team is actually good, and like they hit on Kyron Williams, and Matt Stafford is back from his weird baseball injury, and the defense is playing pretty dominant as well. It's like this it like it, in I just think like the story of this team of these teams are going to clash up against each other, and I think it's going to be a clear win. The Rams are going to win pretty handedly. And here's the thing: I think Matt Stafford is going to throw for 600 yards.
Yeah,
On these
for sure.
Washington corners. It's I don't think he may be 50 for 50, 600 yards, 600 yards. I like it's genuinely they're awful.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Forbes has completely fallen off the map, and this Washington Commanders defense, which normally is gives them at least 2 or 3 games, which keep them in that mediocre spot, haven't been able to do that, and that's the result. That gives you the result that they're at right now. They're going to be 4-10 by the end of this weekend.
Yeah, I don't have much else to touch on. I think you guys pretty much covered it. I like the Rams here.
Yeah, I think these.
In
Yeah, I
LA
mean,
too. I mean,
yeah, it's this this Commanders team is smart. Like they're going to full trust the process 76ers mode here. I don't, but yeah, I think that we don't really need to spend much more time talking about that game. This next one I think is the game of the week, and Cowboys Bills in
it might
Buffalo.
actually be the game of the week on Fox.
I
Um,
I couldn't tell
I
you,
don't know.
but even though I think playoff Bills has been activated, playoff Josh Allen is Zach's a big Josh Allen hater, but I think he gets it done. I think it's in Buffalo too. Uh if it was in Dallas, it'd be a
Dallas.
different story. But it's Buffalo, unlike Detroit, like I was talking about earlier, it's a hard place to go into and win. Teams have struggled to do it. The only teams that really have done it are really good teams. Cowboys are a really good team, but I think the Bills know that every game matters for them because they lost too many games early on for them to be messing around, and they are gonna. Uh, I think they're gonna win this game in a close battle. It's gonna be like the Minnesota Bills Buffalo game last year, except the Bills are gonna come on top this time. It's gonna be back and forth heavyweight bout.
Give me the stars, man. I believe in this Cowboys team. Like until proven otherwise, I'm riding this team. Like I think Dak is just going to continue rising in the MVP consideration. There's not a part of this team other than maybe the corner room that is is kind of subpar, but but even then you've seen people rise. You've seen people rise to the task. You've seen interception records broken. Like I genuinely think that this is a team that could make a deep playoff run. I know that they always find a way to stumble over their own feet, but I don't think that that happens just yet. Uh, I think when you have a especially when you have a team that is breaking interception records going up against Josh Allen, like is that really what you want to see? I um I just have faith in this Dallas Cowboys offense. I know that this is going to be a weird offense. Sorry, going to be a weird matchup in comparison to the Eagles. Um, but the simple thing about it is that until proven otherwise, I'm just rocking with the Cowboys, and I believe um, that they're going to be able to stop the Bills. Because here's the thing: although they did win an Arrowhead, I think Annie and I may have the same idea of the Chiefs. Like this Chiefs, this it's possible that the Chiefs are on fraud watch as well. Because if you kept it that close against the Chiefs, granted it was a win, how are you letting these bums catch balls on you? Like this Buffalo Bills defense has much to be desired, and the Diggs Allen connection hasn't been as productive this season, partly due to Josh Allen's struggles. He has turned it on more, but this is not a game that I trust him in. So I'm going to stick with the Cowboys.
Yeah, so this will be interesting. So I was thinking about it last week and I kind of noticed how it seems like every time the Bills are in a big game, they're on the road. And so I'm thinking like, when do the Bills actually get a big game at home? Well, here we go. The Cowboys are a very good football team this year. Um, and I think that, the Bills have a chance to do something special here and beat a 10-win team with 4 weeks left to go. That means they're a good team. Um, and I don't think the Bills are going to do it. I think the Cowboys are going to go out there and the Cowboys are going to show them why they have 10 wins at this point in the season. I think they're going to go out there and they're going to make a strong case why they should be in the Super Bowl. Dak has looked good so far this season. Brandon Cooks has emerged as a very reliable receiver
That is
this
also
year.
true. Yes, that's another
He's an
candidate.
he's an X factor in
Hmm.
my opinion. Micah Parsons, great defensive player. He's looking defensive player of the year caliber. Um, and I know that that secondary is something that's often talked about. Uh, Trust me, my dad's a Cowboys fan. I've watched enough Cowboys football. The defense will hold. They beat Philadelphia. Philadelphia is struggling right now. The Cowboys are hot at the right time. We always talk about being hot at the right time. In basketball, you want to get hot at the very end of the season, make a good tournament run. The Cowboys are hot right now. They need to just continue that. They need to go in. It's going to be cold, probably snowy, nasty weather. They need to go in, beat Buffalo, and solidify themselves as one of the top teams in the league. And I think they do it on Sunday.
I agree.
Yeah, I disagree, but I mean, I think we can all agree this is going to be a highly competitive close game.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't think
I,
the
th- I think
Cowboy
it'll be a
because
good
there I
game.
don't think
I don't think the
if
Cowboys run
there's a
away.
blow, it's on the Bills, and I don't see the Cowboys blowing out the Bills. But I
Cowboys
get
win it by 50.
okay, yeah, get out of here.
I do have the Cowboys by about 10 points in this game. I think they're going to win by Um, where it'll kind of be like that Green Bay Detroit game where they'll have control the whole time. Where it's not like, oh man, this Buffalo team can't do anything. I think it's going to be a highly competitive game, but I just think the Cowboys are too good this season, um, to leave it up to chance in a game like this. And I think they know what has to be done, and they got to do it.
Yeah, but moving on to Sunday Night Football, big battle in the AFC for the playoff picture. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Ravens Jags in Jacksonville. Now we saw Jake Browning and the Bengals go in there 2 weeks ago and get it done, and I see the Ravens doing it as well. Because I mean, me and Zach said that we shouldn't see Trevor Lawrence play. He did, and it did not work out. I mean, it threw 3 interceptions, right, Zach? So I mean,
Yeah, dude.
he
Sloppy.
didn't look good, and that like a lot of balls were not accurate. And I'm not sure. I mean, a week's gonna make a difference, but I don't know how much of a difference. I don't think much is gonna change, and I think the Ravens get it done, and they're gonna solidify themselves as the number one seed. They'll be the number one seed in the AFC. It's looking like.
Yeah. Um, I think that the high ankle sprain was misdiagnosed because I don't know how you play with with a high ankle sprain with happening that close. So it's either Trevor Lawrence is just like a barbarian who can rage his pain away, or he, or it's potential that it wasn't a high ankle sprain. Um, but it certainly showed like he wasn't playing his best. I don't know if it would have gone any better or worse with CJ Beathard, but he was missing wide open guys in my opinion, and those 3 interceptions were really due to overthrows, and it, like it just didn't look like he was at his best, and I certainly don't trust him playing again against this Ravens. Um, just team in general, like they don't have the tools anymore. Like Christian Kirk is gone. Uh, Calvin Ridley was mostly a non-factor in this most recent Browns game that they played, and uh, really in every aspect of the game, the Ravens have them beat. They have more. They have Zay Flowers. It was a very productive, and I would value him over Calvin Ridley at this point, wide receiver. Um, Multiple key playmakers on defense in comparison to really Josh Allen as the main candidate on the Jags, and a really dynamic level of play on both sides of the ball, which really can't be found in that of the Jags. I mean, the fact that they let, now don't get me wrong, Joe Flacco is going to win the Super Bowl, and he is the best quarterback to be playing right now. But to let him throw for as many yards as he threw on you guys, ridiculous. Genuinely ridiculous. That is the best the Browns offense has looked in really since Deshaun's Titans win. So I think that I'm pressing the red button on fraud alert for this Jags team, and I think that the Ravens are going to beat them in a convincing fashion.
Yeah, that's kind of something I had in mind was, is this Jags team on fraud alert, and I think they are, and I think it's nothing they can really do about it at this point in the season. I think you reload. Trevor
Mhm.
Lawrence has been shown to be a good NFL quarterback. He's in that category of guys that I would say, yeah, you are capable of leading our franchise to victory. He's looked good. I think Doug Peterson is a good coach, but I just
Definitely.
think that this year, it's kind of fallen apart at the worst time for the Jags. Um, Lamar Jackson is one hell of a quarterback. I think he is a top 5 quarterback in this league,
I agree.
and he can put the ball on the money. He can run, and they just have offensive weapons. Their defense is solid. Their defense will hold, and I don't think that an injured T-Law or a fully healthy CJ Beathard is going to be able to do enough that gets the defense on its heels, and also the Jags defense will not be able to do enough to stop the Action Jackson show with an emerging Odell Beckham Jr., who everybody kind of had written off. Um, that's just a very highly loaded offense, and I think that they're my favorite for the Super Bowl currently. I think they go in here and they take this one by a couple touchdowns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we all agree that this Jags team, their record is good, but they haven't looked good recently. And
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see what comes of that. I think though, so based on the way the Texans are playing too, and they got the tiebreaker over them, I think they still win the division and everything. They'll be in the playoffs. But yeah, they lose this week. But moving on to Monday night, the one thing I want to say, I'm picking the Eagles, but one interesting fact I saw is like the Seahawks are 7-0 against the Eagles in like the last 7 matchups, or
Yeah, in
some
the
number
last
like that.
15 years, the Eagles have not beaten the Seahawks, I
Yeah,
saw.
so but I don't think it's in Seattle, which will be tough. But do we know if Gino's playing? I, I mean
Yeah, that
It
was a
looks
big
like Drew. It looks
question.
like they're running it out with Drew Lock.
Yeah, so I don't think Drew
Okay,
Lock is
yeah,
the answer there in
me
Seattle.
neither.
So I'm not picking uh Seattle with Drew Lock at quarterback. No shade to Drew Lock. He's probably one of the best backups in the nation or in the country. But I don't think he is the one to beat this Eagles team, and I think they win and stay at 10-3. And I think the Cowboys will lose, so they'll take their spot back at the top of the NFC East.
I know. All right, Andy, you take this next, and I'll cap it off and close this out because I have an
All
announcement
right,
to make.
so um here's where I stand on this. I think the Eagles are sliding, and I think they're sliding fast. Uh, it's interesting, because a lot of their weaknesses have been exposed recently. They're no longer a Super Bowl favorite. Um, I think they're more looking like a wild card team. I think Dallas is better than them, and we saw that. But with that being said, Vino playing this game, I roll Seahawks. They're at home. It's a Monday night. That can be a very, very hostile environment. But Drew Lock not moving the needle. I think that the Eagles are going to be able to rally. They're kind of on their heels here. I think they're going to be able to rally and come away with a good win here in Seattle. I got the Birds, the Eagles, Birds.
The two birds. Okay, so you have heard it said that the Seahawks were a playoff caliber team. You have heard it said that they were making the playoffs and that they could make a deep playoff run. You have heard it said that they wrote Geno Smith off and they didn't write back. Now I don't want to throw shade at Geno. I like Geno, but you have also heard me said that the Seahawks are not a playoff caliber team. You have also heard me said from the jump, or at least from like 7 or 8 weeks ago, they're not making the playoffs. And you will hear today me say that they will not win this game, further entrenching their odds of not making the playoffs. And if I am wrong about them making the playoffs, or let's say winning the next 2 games, let's say if they get 2 more wins, actually no, next 2 if they win against, no, let's up the stakes, okay? If they beat the Eagles, I will wear a Seahawks jersey for the rest of the regular season.
Whoa.
Yes. On
Do
this
you own a
on this
Seahawks jersey?
podcast.
Do you?
I
Yeah, do we?
I own a
Have to go to
Seahawks jersey.
Goodwill.
I own a Seahawks jersey. And I'm so confident that they are not going to win this game and that my prophecy is going to come true. That if I already said it, I'm not taking it back. If they win this game, the next 3 weeks, I'm wearing a Seahawks jersey, okay? I hope that this isn't the case. I hope that I don't have to disgrace myself and flatulate myself as I'm on my own podcast. But if this is the truth and they beat the Eagles, I am going to humiliate myself. But in the end, I'll still probably be right because I don't see them making the playoffs, even if they win out. So I'll at least have that on him. But go Birds. I think the Eagles are really going to win this one despite like really looking bad against the Cowboys. And it's like this is not a fun game for them. Like I'm not excited for it. Like if I wasn't pushing the Seahawks agenda from like this like way back, like I would probably look at this with a little bit more nuance. But I think that the Eagles will win. I'm just not super confident about it, but I got to double down.
The thing is, when you say "Go Birds," it makes you act like you're rooting for the Seahawks. That's
Go
'cause they're
the
both birds.
go Freedom Birds.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but regardless,
All
you
right.
got your point. Now I want the Seahawks to win because
Yeah, I do
if they
too.
make the
I
playoffs,
want
you got to
to
wear all playoffs too. I think.
If they make the playoffs,
with
I will wear it for
the
I will wear
Seahawks
it. Yeah, if they make it to the playoffs, I'm wearing it the
jersey.
entire rest of the
Yeah,
season.
Next week's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so I just had to raise the stakes a little bit. But with that, that's all for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Shout out to Andy for joining us. Thanks for giving us a Packers inside opinion and then just giving us another perspective. We really appreciate everyone just sticking out with us, and hopefully your team does well this week. Unless you're a Seahawks fan, because I can't do this. With that, have a great rest of your week. Go Birds.
See y'all. Peace.